If you as an entrepreneur ever find yourself thinking that you're the only one thinking about the hard problems, that you're alone, that you're isolated, and everyone else is just waiting for instructions, you're probably stuck in what Dave calls lone wolf leadership. So, this is part 4 of the Buy-in Blockers Takeover series. And Dave digs into what happens when decisions live in one head or one department instead of being co created with the people who actually have to execute them. So he shows you and gives you examples of how this plays out in real life, from teams that have solved the same problem 3 different ways to leaders who think they're being clear, but they end up re-explaining the same request over and over. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, where you're like, it's just easier if I do it myself. You'll hear why one of the biggest warning signs is just tell me what you want me to do, how that's not a relief in what you want, and how to replace it with a simple co-creation playbook. So you start with purpose, you define what great looks like, and then you let your people help design the path. And most importantly, what I love about Dave is Dave always gives practical answers and questions. And Dave in this gives you practical questions that you can use today or this week to start collapsing that gap, to stop leading in isolation and start tapping into collective genius that you have around you, whether it's your team, your coaches, your friends, your other entrepreneurs. And so this is episode 4 in the series. So if you missed the overview, the purpose drift, or the blind tasks, cue those up too, because they're all applicable, and use this one to make delegation and decision making really, really easy so that you can build buy-in instead of burning out. So let's get into the episode.
My friend George has invited me to share with you some game-changing insights into untapped potential that most people never experience and most people don't know about. It's called buy-in. So let's start with defining what I mean when I say buy-in. So you've seen buy-in. You've seen it in Friday Night Lights at football games. You know, it's where people bring their whole selves. They're rallying around a common objective, which is the team winning. They bring energy and excitement. They are focused. They bring their hearts and their minds and their souls. But then what happens on Monday morning? The sad truth is about half the employees in most companies, half the employees in America are looking for another job. And how effective do you think they can be in serving what the company needs when they're kind of half of people are looking out the window for other opportunities? They are not bought in. They might be happy hanging around the hoop. I'm not talking about happiness here. I'm talking about being fully present and putting everything you've got into the team being successful. Buy-in is when people apply their full selves to getting what matters done and doing it well. That's buy-in. And yet the latest data from Gallup says 1 in 3 employees in the US are engaged. And engaged just means they'd recommend the place as a place to work. Buy-in is a whole nother level. Hey, everybody, I'm Dave Garrison, author of USA Today, best-selling book, The Buy-in Advantage, also available on Audible and on Kindle. And you're going to get information about what it says right here today. Welcome to the Leadership Lounge. There are 4 common mistakes that prevent buy-in. Leaders don't mean to do these, but they happen anyway. You might remember in the first session, we talked about the blocker purpose drift. That's when people lose sight of the compelling purpose of the organization, and purpose doesn't show up in day-to-day conversations when people are making decisions or setting priorities. Last episode, we talked about blind tasks. That's just tell me what you want me to do, boss, and I'll do it. That's blind tasks. They may not do it well. They may not apply themselves to it, but they may just get it done. But that's not what we're talking about. The third blocker of buy-in is lone wolf leadership. Lone wolf leadership. We see it all the time. And the fourth is one-way communication. Today, let's do a deep dive together into lone wolf leadership. So here's the problem: decisions happening in silos instead of harnessing collective genius. And we'll talk about collective genius. But when decisions happen in silos, buy in goes out the window. There is no buy in because the decision and the quality of the decision is limited by the one person making the decision. Even worse, the person making the decision believes everybody sees the thing the same as they do, and then gets deeply disappointed when others don't agree or they half heartedly carry out whatever they're being asked to do. And you've seen this with teams as well. Teams solve in silos. The manufacturing group solves a problem according to how they see the world. The same problem addressed by the marketing team is solved totally differently. That's lone wolf leadership because it applies to silos in businesses as well. What we know to be true: effective organizations have horizontal linkage. They use collective genius, and we'll be talking about what that really looks like and how to do it. By the way, doesn't cost a thing. So here's the cost of those problems. Here's what we see in the real world. Everybody might agree on what our strategy is. So we talk to leaders all the time and we say, how would you describe the company's strategy? Often we'll hear one or two words like growth or delighting customers. The problem with that: everybody's going to do it their own way. Every department steers in their own direction. There's no collective effort towards a common goal. You know, everybody launches off on their own and they do what they think is best, but it takes everybody pulling in the same direction to really make game changing differences. Another symptom we see: wasted effort duplicating work. The same people working on different things, or the same department working on different things, but coming up with different solutions or using different resources or not having all the information they need. It results in leaders having to ask 3 times to get something done. And another thing we see: we waste so much time going back and forth because we aren't on the same page. We end up having to ask people something like, hey, I thought you were going to. And then the other person says, well, it's not what I thought. I didn't think you wanted it then. I didn't think you wanted it done that way. Just a total waste of time. Lone wolf leadership is a buy in blocker that results in all of that happening. And it really gets in the way of game changing results. Even worse, it makes being a leader a drudgery, and it doesn't need to be that way. Leadership is so much easier when everybody's pulling in the same direction, when people are trying to accomplish the same thing and they know their role in doing it. So let's look at a solution. I'm going to challenge you to try a different playbook when you want to get something done, when you need other people to get something done with you, when you need to delegate, same formula applies. There's a different playbook. And how about if I told you the playbook that works is free and you can try it out right now? But first, let me give you an example from your non work life. Let's assume that you are committed to creating the greatest family vacation your family has ever had. So, you know what? You could say, oh, I bet the kids would really like Disney World. And we'll go there and we'll go for a week. And we're going to stay at a property on hotel. I will stay at a hotel on property. And it's going to be awesome. And you book it up and you surprise everybody. And then you hear, oh, it's not really what I wanted. Huh, I wouldn't have done it this way. And you feel like it's a kick in the gut because we never tapped into what was important to other people. Here's a different way to go after that vacation. Ask your family, ask family members to consider on their own what would make a great family vacation. What would that look like? Where would you go? How long would it be? What kind of activities would you be doing? Where would you be? Would it be in the mountains, at the beach, in a city, somewhere else? Ask your family members to come up with their idea of what a great vacation looks like. Then sit down together and compare notes. Everybody's ideas may not be the same, but that's fine. You're going to see where the most energy is and where the most excitement is. And then you can create an intelligent travel plan based on the criteria that you get from your family. Last episode, we talked about criteria and how it fits into making great decisions. So take a step back, take a deep breath, and consider it's time to co create solutions when you want something done, when there's something important to get done, or even when you delegate. It's based on a really simple principle that you kind of know from experience. All of us are smarter than any of us. All I know is from what I learned growing up, the world looks like. All I know is from the information that gets through my filters. I don't see most information that occurs. I don't see most of reality because I filter it out in order to survive. And every single person is the same way. But what that means to us is that your filters are different than my filters, and you see the same situation very differently. It's how 5 people can look at a car crash and they all describe something different. They're all true, they're just different. So when we co create and work with other people, we not only get buy in, we tap into somebody else's experience. And that's something, their experience, that we'll never have. So instead of making a decision on our own, why don't we think about who else has experiences that are relevant? And what we get to do is to come up with a specific problem and let them know why solving that problem is important. This is the collective genius process to help lone wolf leaders become part of the pack and create game changing outcomes. So, share the purpose of why what you are asking or why what you want to do is important. Put it in context, relate it to values, goals, objectives, relate it to the compelling purpose. The compelling purpose of a company answers the question, why bother doing this? And it's never about making money, it's always about changing lives. So share the purpose first and relate your request to a current strategy, our values, our compelling purpose. Then describe what an ideal outcome looks like to you. This is not describe how you think it ought to be done. Describe what a great outcome looks like. That's your criteria. When this is done, well, here's what we will see. We're going to see it's a family vacation that took place over a week, that everybody came back and learned to get to know each other better. We had some common experiences. It was both fun and challenging. We all learned, whatever your criteria is. And as you lay out your criteria and you've laid out your purpose, or your focused outcome, finally ask other people to consider if they have other criteria and consider what great would look like to them. In other words, instead of giving people our answer or telling them how to do something, what we're doing is saying, look, here's what it is we're trying to accomplish. Here's why it is important. Here's the criteria that tells me it was really done well. It was done on time. It was done within budget. It didn't take a lot of time to train people. And then ask others, how do you think we ought to get this done? What questions do you have about this? And that is co creation. Now, here's a secret. When people come back to you and give you their solution, it may not be what you would have done or how you would have done it. But here's the secret: do not judge. Zip your lips when you feel like you want to say, well, that's good, but, or didn't you, did you consider this instead? And then you pop off your solution. That destroys buy in. Here's what great leaders do: they recognize if you've set the criteria right as the leader, and if you've set the desired outcome correctly, any solution is a perfect one if you've set it up correctly. So when you hear somebody's solution, ask 2 questions. One question is, what let you know that that was a great solution? How did you know it was a great solution? And the other is, what other solutions did you consider? Get those two answers from people, and then you'll know how they think about it, and you can help lead them and celebrate with them. So, here's my buy in challenge for you. I want you to apply this simple solution of instead of telling people what to do, tell them what the outcome is and give them your criteria for what great looks like the next time you want something done. And if you aren't asking people to do things for you, you are stuck in lone wolf leadership. Yeah. I know you've tried to delegate before and people didn't do the things the way you thought or didn't do it when you wanted it done. You know what? That's on you, not on them. A leader who sets clearly desired outcome and sets criteria and then listens for feedback, which we'll talk about in the next episode. Let me tell you, delegation changes the game. People feel great. You trust them with doing things. But delegation doesn't mean lone wolf leadership. Let me tell you how to do this. Delegation means co creating, doing it together using collective genius. If you want feedback from your team on what they are experiencing, check out the team assessment. Allow your team to take the team assessment and then discuss the results. You can get it, it's free. It's at buyinbook.com, BUYIN book.com. And I can't wait to hear about your experiences. Enter your comments and your feedback below. Would love to hear from you, and we'll see you on the next Leadership Lounge.